Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Continuing Professional Development, a program that is being run by DERT Shillong. My name is Shri Laikin Suting. Today, we are going to discuss about inquiry in science. The use of inquiry in science as a teaching learning process is as old as the subject science itself. Now, let us look into the nature of inquiry in science. Let us ask the question, what is inquiry? Inquiry is a term used both within education and in daily life to refer to seeking knowledge or information by asking questions. It is sometimes compared with research, investigation, or the search for the truth. Within education, inquiry can take place in several subjects, such as history, geography, science, mathematics, and other subjects as well. Inquiry means looking into or investigating something. It is an attempt to find out answers to question that is being posed. Inquiry starts by asking questions. When questions are raised, evidence is gathered and possible explanations are considered. In each area, different kinds of knowledge and understanding emerge. What distinguishes inquiry from other approaches is that it leads to knowledge and understanding of the natural and man-made world through methods that depend on the collection and use of evidence. The traditional method of teaching science is usually through the teacher who provides facts and information to the students. And the students in turn learn those facts and information. Inquiry, on the other hand, takes a more student-centered approach and focuses instead on questions and problem solving. Now, let us look into inquiry in classroom. We know that students learn through reasoning and performing tasks, through asking questions, carrying out experiments, weighing evidences, and considering alternative hypotheses. Through their own curiosity and scientific skill that they develop, students learn about the facts by themselves rather than having them presented as supplement. Inquiry as an approach can thus motivate students to develop interest in science, scientific literacy, curiosity, thinking skills, etc. The teacher acts only as a facilitator when required. Inquiry begins with gathering of information through applying the human senses such as seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. Inquiry encourages children to question, conduct research for genuine reasons, and make discoveries on their own. Inquiry makes use of previous knowledge and experiences of the learner. It uses multiple ways of gathering information and taking on new perspectives when exploring issues, contents, and questions. Let us discuss about scientific inquiry. What is scientific inquiry? Scientific inquiry is a form of education which, unlike traditional method, where the teacher provides all the facts and information to the students to learn, presents the student with an opportunity to explore hands-on activities, to do experiments, to ask questions, and to develop responses based on reasoning. It is very much an essential form of gathering information. Scientific inquiry is what scientists do when they investigate the natural world. It is important to introduce scientific inquiry to children at the primary stage in order to harness their innate curiosity, which is particularly very much active when they are about the age of 6 to 12 years. Now, there is a saying that you tell me and I forget. Show me I may remember, but involve me and I will understand. Now, the last part of the statement is the essence of scientific inquiry. Students, rather than learning passively from the teacher and memorizing facts, construct their own understanding and knowledge. The concept of inquiry-based learning is something that all of us experience throughout our lives. Growing up, children are continuously asking questions in an attempt to make sense of the world around them. We all want to understand the world around us. We try to figure out how things work in our lives. And we do this by asking questions and seeking out information. Take, for example, we usually ask the question, why is the sky blue? It is our natural urge to inquire, and during this process, we are continually thinking in order to make meaning. Essentially, inquiry-based learning starts with a question. Many of us grown up learn through traditional methods of hearing what the teacher provide information to us. In this way, the teacher only acts as a sage in the stage, passing on information from the textbook to the students in a step-by-step process. Success is measured by the student's ability to be able to recite the information with a focus on reproducing one correct answer. Inquiry-based learning is more dynamic than this, as it actively involves students in their own learning. Now, inquiry-based learning stems from John Dewey's constructivist theory, where people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiences and the things that they have observed in the natural settings. Constructivists believe that children learn best when they ask questions, investigate solutions, and then add new knowledge as they gather information. They discuss discoveries and experiences and also reflect on new knowledge. In other words, student learning is not based on teacher-directed activities, just as what we have recalled, but rather they are learning the skills to synthesize, interpret any valuable information in an inquiry mode. Scientific inquiry for the teacher helps the learner to learn actively, and the sole role of the teacher is only as a facilitator of student learning, rather than providing information. In as well as having an excellent understanding of the content, the teacher also needs to carefully plan their learning units. This planning will involve the teacher either in developing an open-ended question or devising a topic based on the curriculum for the students to determine their own questions. It will also involve designing exploration type of activities that activate prior knowledge and engage the students. Typically, the lesson will start with an open-ended question devised by the teacher or the students, or sometimes both. Through the use of carefully planned activities, the teacher will encourage students to discuss the question and search for their own answers. It is during this process that the students gather resources, do their own research, synthesize the information, and then present and share their findings. Finally, the students will then need to be given the opportunity to reflect on their learning. Through this process, students are building their own knowledge. Now, there are different levels of scientific inquiry. Naturally, every class is different, and the approach of the teacher will vary according to the ability of the class and the topic. Teachers are able to utilize different levels of inquiry, from a structured approach to an open inquiry. There are essentially three levels of inquiry, namely structured, guided, and open inquiry. The structured inquiry approach is where the teacher mainly directs the inquiry. The teacher then provides question to be investigated and then would also provide a step-by-step instruction to the learners to enable them to discover answers. These kind of inquiries are important because they enable students to gradually develop their abilities to conduct more open-ended inquiries. It is also a good level to start, especially for teachers who are new to inquiry-based learning. With guided inquiry, on the other hand, the teacher generally chooses the question, but the students will take more responsibility for establishing their direction and the methods of their inquiry. The teacher plays an important role in guiding the inquiry. This could be through feedback or posing further questions that help lead the students in the right direction. On the other hand, in an open-ended inquiry, the students take the lead in establishing the questions and the method to be used, while the teacher takes on the supportive role. Having students ask the question that guide their own investigation is the key to an open-ended inquiry and also requires higher order thinking. It is also possible to use a combination of two types of inquiry, and this is called as coupled inquiry. For example, the teacher could be given with a guided inquiry phase and then followed by an open inquiry phase. If the teacher understands the different levels of inquiry, then they can vary the learning experiences accordingly and according to the need of the learner. Now, how does scientific inquiry occurs in a classroom? Now, in an inquiry-based classroom, students do not wait for the teacher or someone else to provide the answer, but instead, they are actively seeking solutions, designing investigations, and asking further new questions. Students quickly see the cycle of learning and that learning has cycles. Students learn to think and solve problems. They learn that there is no one place or no one resource for all the answers that they seek, but that many tools are useful for exploring problems. Students are actively involved in making observations, collecting and analyzing information, synthesizing information, drawing conclusions, and developing useful problem-solving skills. These skills can be applied to situations that students will encounter later. Most of our schools focus on teaching a set of basic skills that does not serve the need of the modern society. In a modern society which is fast-paced, globally connected, and technologically oriented, it requires students who can solve problems and critically think on the problem. Merely memorizing facts and information is not the most important skill in today's world. Facts change, and information multiplies at an incredibly fast rate. Therefore, what is needed is an understanding of how to make sense of all of this. Inquiry teaching and learning teaches the students how to seek appropriate solutions to the problem, to answer questions, and to deal with issues accordingly. In an inquiry classroom, the teacher acts as a facilitator of learning. The teacher becomes the leader, or a coach, or a question asker, a seeker of resources, and a theory builder. Although the teacher presents information to the students, yet he or she is not solely responsible for imparting the information. Students participate in asking questions and seeking answers. The teacher thoughtfully orchestrates learning experiences based on students' prior knowledge and interests. Teacher records students' progress with ongoing, that is formative, and final, that is summative assessments. Inquiry can also be conducted through cooperative group work, which helps foster a sense of community among all the students. To begin with, a small group of 2 to 3 students can work well. The group will then be given a task and each student will be assigned a role. For example, there will be a recorder, a presenter, a facilitator, a designer, and a presenter of all the findings of the group. Now let us discuss about the model of learning through scientific inquiry. A model of learning science through inquiry begins with the students trying to make sense of the phenomena or trying to answer a question about why something behaves in a certain way or take the form it does. Initially, exploration reveals features that recall previous ideas leading to possible explanations. There might be several ideas from previous experiences that could be relevant, and through discussion, one of these is chosen as the given possible explanation or hypothesis to be tried. Working scientifically, students then proceed to see how useful the chosen existing idea or knowledge makes sense and a prediction is made based on the hypothesis. Because only if the predictive power are valid and tested, then only new data about the phenomena are gathered. The problem is then analyzed, and then the outcome is used as evidence to compare the predicted results. These results are tentative conclusions that can be drawn about the initial idea given by the student. If it gives a good explanation, then the existing idea is not only confirmed but becomes fully established. It also explains a wider range of phenomena. And even if the idea doesn't work, and that an alternative idea has to be tried, the experience itself has helped to refine the idea. So knowing that the existing idea does not fit is also useful for the student. This is the process of building understanding through collecting evidence to test possible explanations and the idea behind them in a scientific manner, which we can say as learning through scientific inquiry. This way of understanding offers a view of how smaller ideas are progressively developed into bigger ideas. In doing so, it is important to acknowledge and to start from the idea that students already have. Now, if these ideas are just put aside, students will still hold to them, and because they are the one that will work out for themselves and make sense to the world around them. They must thus be given opportunities to see for themselves which ideas are more consistent with the evidence. Also, since ability to question, describe, propose, communicate, and conclude language are involved in this process, it follows that inquiry is closely tied to the development and use of appropriate language. Now let us discuss about the importance of scientific inquiry. There are several reasons why learning through scientific inquiry should be part of students' learning. It will not be the only form of pedagogy that they encounter in their science education, for there are some things to be learned, such as skills of using equipments, learning the names and symbols, which they are best taught directly. Also, in schools, students need to be introduced to complex and abstract concepts at the higher level through their own thinking and reasoning, which may have many benefits for the students who do not obtain it in any other way. These benefits include enjoyment and satisfaction for the students, being able to try out by themselves, trying to foster curiosity among the students, and develop scientific skills as well. Now let us learn about the aspects of scientific inquiry. The important aspects of scientific inquiry is that teaching science involves a range of pedagogical strategies. These may include classroom organization, encouraging collaborative work, asking questions, using students' prior experiences, developing students' knowledge, understanding and skills, organizing different kinds of discussion, how students record and report their work, what kind of feedback to be given to students on their work, and using assessment to help learning. Enabling students to learn through inquiry may require a shift in how these aspects of teaching are carried out. Helping students to develop and use scientific inquiry skills, holding discussion, guiding students' recording, using assessment to help learning. Now, the characteristics of scientific inquiry are as follows. In terms of the teaching approach, scientific inquiry uses a constructivist approach, whereas in the traditional approach, it follows a behaviorist approach. In terms of students' participation, scientific inquiry is more active, whereas traditional approach is more passive. In terms of students' involvement, in the scientific inquiry, the students are present in the teaching learning process all the time, whereas in the traditional approach, most of the time the students are absent. In terms of the role of the student becomes as a problem solver in scientific inquiry, whereas through the traditional approach, it is always dependent on the teacher. The nature of the curriculum also differs, where we find that in scientific inquiry, the nature of the curriculum is process-oriented, whereas in case of the traditional approach, it is more product-oriented. Now, in terms of the role of the teacher, in scientific inquiry, the teacher is merely as a facilitator of information and knowledge, whereas in the traditional approach, the teacher is the sole transmitter of all the knowledge, information, and facts that is being presented to the students. Now let us discuss regarding the curriculum in relation to scientific inquiry. Inquiry-based curriculum has been shown to develop independent and critical thinking skills, positive attitudes, and curiosity towards science, and an increased achievement in terms of content. Inquiry adopts an investigative approach to teaching and learning, where students are provided with opportunities to investigate a problem, search for possible solution, make observations, ask questions, test out ideas, and think creatively, using their intuition. In this sense, inquiry-based science involves students doing science where they have opportunities to explore possible solutions, and to develop explanations for the phenomena under investigation, to elaborate further on the concepts and processes as well, and to evaluate or assess their understanding in the light of available evidences. This approach to teaching relies on the teacher recognizing the importance of presenting problems to the students that will challenge their current conceptual understanding. So, they are forced to reconcile anomalous thinking and construct new understanding. Now, how does inquiry help students? Inquiry challenges students' thinking ability, and by engaging them in investigating scientifically oriented questions, they learn to give priority to evidence, evaluate the explanations, and in the light of alternative explanations, are able to learn and communicate their decisions, and also to justify them. In short, scientific inquiry requires the use of evidence, logic, and imagination in developing explanations about the natural world. At the school level, scientific inquiry can be conducted through various methods that engage students in exploring, experimenting, and understanding scientific concepts. These methods are often adapted to suit the age, experience, and resources available to the students. Here are some of the examples of different ways of conducting inquiry in science at the school level. Simple hands-on experiments, simple laboratory experiments which students can perform every day in their classroom. Observational studies. Students can also use observation as part of scientific inquiry, where they will observe the natural setting and the natural phenomena they are able to witness. Another way of increasing the interest among learner is through the use of microscope, which helps students to develop observational skills. Project-based learning is another way in which students can learn better. In project-based learning, students choose a question and try to problem solve them. They conduct research and experiment and presents the finding in a classroom setting. Field trips and outdoor learning experiences are also some of the other ways in which students will learn and develop their inquiry skills. Students can also use modeling and simulations, such as building models, where students can create physical models of scientific concepts, such as volcanoes, solar system, etc., etc. Research and investigation is another way in which students will be able to help to learn better. Activities such as literature review, searching for books, articles, online resources, and journals will help them to synthesize their finding and to report or present. Dialogue and debate are another way in which students can learn science better, in the form of seminars and other scientific discussions, where they will discuss on the topic and ask questions, explore different viewpoints, and deepen their understanding. The use of multimedia and technology is also another way through which scientific inquiry can be used to help students learn science in a much better way. Students can watch scientific videos or documentaries and discuss or write about the concepts and processes involved. In conclusion, we can say that inquiry-based science education means students progressively develop their knowledge and understanding of the world around them. They help to construct their own knowledge through such mental and physical activities that they learn and use their skill in a similar manner. For teachers, implementing inquiry-based science education may also mean a change in their approach towards teaching and learning, where they learn to arrange and give space to learner to be able to ask questions, to provide feedback, and to motivate the students. This will be a total shift from the usual traditional method to an inquiry-based learning, which will most importantly develop the knowledge, understanding, and skills of the learner. Well, viewers, thank you for tuning in into this episode.